when we talk about upgrading audio gear, the phrase that always comes up is the Law of Diminishing Returns. It's one of those truths that sits in the background of every purchase decision an audiophile makes. You start out in this hobby with modest equipment, and the first upgrades are usually transformative. But as you climb higher, each step costs more and delivers less. And it's worth asking, how much better does it really get? And at what point does the pursuit become more about status than about sound? Let's start with the basics. Imagine moving from a $500 all-in-one receiver and budget speakers to a solid integrated amp and a decent pair of stand mounts. That jump doesn't just sound a little better, it changes everything. You go from flat, two-dimensional playback to music that has weight and dimension. If you had to put a number on it, maybe that upgrade feels like a 50% improvement, maybe even more. Anyone, trained ears, untrained ears, even someone who doesn't care about hi-fi, will hear the difference. It's usually at this stage where the audiophile bug really bites. We hear what is possible, and we wrongly assume it can be achievable in a linear fashion with all future upgrades, so we keep throwing more money at the system, but slowly we start to become more and more frustrated. The extra cash hasn't brought the performance leaps we'd expected. Sometimes we add an expensive component and upset the balance of our system and actually take a step backwards, sonically. What's going on? Why can't we spend our way to an improvement like we did at the start of our journey? So you've built a respectable system, and you start eyeing high-end DACs, turntables, and amplifiers. Here's where the percentages start shrinking even more. Going from a $2,000 DAC to a $6,000 DAC might get you, let's say, a 10% improvement in sound quality. A bit more detail, more refinement, better separation. But it's not night and day anymore. The curve is already flattening, and then you reach the summit, the true high end. I'll use a personal example here. I went from the Hollow Audio May KTE DAC with an MSRP under $6,000 to the DCS Rossini player and master clock, which comes in just shy of $40,000. That's a staggering difference in cost. So, what did I really gain? Extra transparency, yes. More detail, a bigger soundstage, sharper image specificity, better layering. The Rossini is more revealing. It feels effortless in the way it extracts information from the recording. But here's the kicker. How much better is it really? 10%? Maybe 5%? And how hard am I having to work to hear and actually describe the improvements? And would those differences be audible to untrained ears? Probably not. This is where the law of diminishing returns really bites. The first $1,000 you spend gets you 50% better. The next $5,000 gets you maybe 20% better. But once you cross into five-figure gear, you're often paying $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 for what amounts to the last 5% of performance. And that 5% is subjective. What does a 5% improvement in sound quality actually sound like? It could be a slightly more holographic image, a touch more air around the instruments, or simply the feeling that the music flows more naturally. These are subtle qualities that might matter deeply to a trained listener, but which may not register at all to someone outside the hobby. So why do we do it? Why do people chase that last 5%? Part of it is passion, the love of music and the love of the gear itself. Part of it is curiosity, wanting to know what's possible. But let's be honest, part of it is also status. If you're active on forums, if you attend audiophile club meetings, if you invite friends over to hear your system, there's an element of pride in owning the very best. But if you're someone who enjoys the music privately, without needing to impress anyone, you're less likely to spend heavily chasing those final few percent, and you're more likely to spend your money on music. All this leads to the question, where should you invest to get the best bang for your buck? The truth is, The biggest improvements don't always come from buying the most expensive electronics. Speaker choice, room acoustics, and system matching often matter more. Proper speaker placement can transform a system more than swapping a $6,000 DAC for a $40,000 one. Adding a well-integrated subwoofer often gives you a bigger improvement in musical enjoyment than spending 5 figures on a new amp. And then there's synergy, which is something audiophiles talk about but don't always prioritize. Every piece of equipment has a sonic fingerprint, and it's not just about how good a component is on its own, it's about how it plays with the rest of the system. If your speakers are super revealing and already a touch on the bright side, do you really want to pair them with an ultra-resolving DAC that tips the whole presentation toward lean and harsh? Chasing absolute resolution without thinking about system synergy can leave you with something technically impressive, but fatiguing to listen to. And of course, the elephant in the room, literally, is the room itself. The room is the single most important component in any system, and yet it's the one most people neglect. The benefits gained from proper room treatments will always outweigh those gained from changing to more expensive components. And what about things like cables and ancillaries? Are they really worth what many of us spend? Well, this is where diminishing returns is often at its sharpest. Yes, cables matter. Resistance, capacitance, and shielding all play a role in how they interact with the system. But the difference between a $100 cable and a $1,000 cable is usually much smaller than people hope. I don't believe there's always a direct correlation between cable cost and performance. For me, it's less about the price tag and more about finding cables with the right electrical properties that complement the two components they're connecting. That's where the magic often lies, in synergy, not in spending more. So, how much do we need to spend for an audiophile quality system? Well, maybe the smarter question isn't how much should you spend, but how much can you justify? If the upgrade brings you more enjoyment, more connection with your music, and you can comfortably afford it, then it's worth it, even if all you're getting is a small percentage improvement. But if you're straining finances or buying mainly for the badge on the front, then maybe the law of diminishing returns has caught up with you. At the end of the day, the sweet spot is different for everyone. For some, it's a mid-tier system that gets 90% of the way there without breaking the bank. For others, it's chasing perfection at any cost. But it's worth remembering that beyond a certain point, the gains become subtle, the percentages shrink. Whatever you do, try not to lose focus of the primary goal, which for most of us should be enhancing the enjoyment of the music. Learn to appreciate what your system already does well. When you plan upgrades, choose components that are known to work in synergy with what you have, rather than chasing specs in isolation. And above all, if you're serious about unlocking the full potential of your speakers and electronics, be prepared to invest in your room. No upgrade will deliver more bang for your buck than a good room acoustic. If you found any of that horseshit useful, please hit like and subscribe, and I'll be sure to send more of it your way.
I'm an audiophile with a story to tell. Buy more stuff than I ever sell. Tubes, records, tweaks, and cables. No CD player, I prefer turntables. Girl, you don't know the half of it. If you saw the bills, you'd throw a fit. When I'm gone, don't feel the loss, and don't sell my gear for what I told you it cost. Got golden ears, a thing for speakers. King on the forums, lord of the tweakers. Spend money on gear, hide it under the stairs. Boxes of stuff ain't opened in years. Girl, you don't know the half of it. If you saw the bills, you'd throw a fit. When I'm gone, don't feel the loss, and don't sell my gear for what I told you it cost. Your FedEx guy, I'll buy him beer. He drives around the block till the coast is clear. Stuff gets damaged, he bring a replacement. Delivers my boxes right into the basement. Girl, you don't know the half of it. If you saw the bills, you'd throw a fit. When I'm gone, don't feel the loss, and don't sell my gear for what I told you it cost. FedEx guy, I buy him beer. He drives around the block till the coast is clear. Stuff gets damaged, he bring a replacement. Delivers my boxes right into the basement. Girl, you don't know the half of it. If you saw the bills, you'd throw a fit. When I'm gone, don't feel the loss, and don't sell my gear for what I told you it cost. Guns in the closet, cars on the lot. A boat in the driveway, time forgot. Cameras, watches, a motorcycle too. Paid a fortune for it all, she don't have a clue. Girl, you don't know the half of it. If you saw the bills, you'd throw a fit. When I'm gone, don't feel the loss, and don't sell my gear for what I told you it cost. No, baby, them speakers ain't new. Stored in the garage for a decade or two. That amp, I've owned it for years, just brought it down from the room upstairs. So babe, when you sort through my mess, try to understand why I never confessed. I never cheated on you in all these years, except the mountain of gear hidden under the stairs. When I'm gone, don't feel the loss, just don't sell my gear for what I told you it cost.